Okay, so I'm just using a little bit of the templates on this. You can do it without it, but just trying to show you how this builds up. So here's at least a center line or 30-degree angle for that, and as you look at the dimension of this, you can try to estimate just about how large or how long it's going to be. So I'm going to place it down here, have maybe this distance from here to here be the threaded section. It's going to have a blank section that has the piece set up for the hexagon way back in the section here. So this ellipse will be the hexagon shape. So once I have that, then I just have to estimate the thickness of this. So I'm going to place that in there. This being the isometric template, doesn't have to be this one, but just showing you the rotation as it builds. Here's the 30 degrees from that direction. So kind of showing you that part. Here it is from the top, and 30 degrees from the other location. So it's building it in that direction. So once I find that, then I just have to look for a segment that's going to be about this thickness here. I'm going to make it pretty large. And since it's right here at the base, or right at one of these selections right here, and I have it lined up, I can go ahead and just kind of make that somewhat heavy because I know where that's going to be. So here it is at that section. Just move it to the ending of it. So for the part that's going to be just a metal shaft with no threads, it gives me this selection here. So there it is for that piece. Just scooch this up a bit. So that gives me that section, and I know that the base of this has this hexagon, so still using that size ellipse, just make it a little bit larger. And again, since it's going to be on the same plane, I'm just going to indicate the crop marks, extend that, and then just make this a little bit larger. And as long as it lines up with this line that's on the same plane, you can always adjust it just to give a little perspective into that feeling there, and then just bump it over to get the thickness of this section. So if this was a bolt that was straight, you could kind of see how that's placed in there, but it's the hexagon shape, so you can build that up, goes behind it, and just make this the tangent lines here. So that places it in there, so you can freehand this in. There is a way to actually project it in perspective, but we'll just kind of leave it set up for that. And then if you take a look at the threaded section that's down here, it tapers down, but we'll refine this section right here 9/16. So just bump this up down here and just temporarily put a little space, because I know that's almost the end, and then it's going to taper down to a couple of them. But what I want to do is use a little bit of the engineer's scale and place this in here. So at each one of these marks, kind of like before, just putting this mark on here. It's pretty close. And here I'm just going to line this up. Now these lines, they can be pretty heavy because I know it's going to end for that one. So as long as this is lined up, just kind of, doesn't matter if it overlaps just a little bit. Let's see, here's that one. So every mark I'm just lining it up right up to here and just cascading. So this is the repeated pattern coming down. And can make this pretty heavy. So if you're doing it all freehand, just allocate that difference down there. Line this part up. This is the linear drawing. Just throwing this down there. As it gets down to the lower section, just going to drop this down and make the template size 2 times smaller. And that'll be the end of it right there. So once you have that, you have this kind of repeated pattern all the way through. It's all linear to that section, and then it's just a matter of the shading part. So I'm just going to, real quickly, again, going with this edge. Kind of set this up here. And I can take this just using a straight edge, pushing it again. And looking at your drawing, find those lines, but still try to blend in that section. Look at your reference to see, depending on which direction you have it. And blend that in there. And these edges, again, you can find the line, then just kind of blend it with the tone as it goes through there. Blend this part. So you can kind of really build it up with that, with the edges. Use your straight edge. This has a little bit of tone inside here. So just kind of shading this in. And then here the cylindrical shape, again, reminiscent of this part, trying to get that cylindrical part shaded. So just find the edges to it. And it treats it like a posterized drawing, so just building it up, skipping a little bit for the highlight. Kind of filling this part in, and really using a solid part of the lead to get that dark value. Build that part up, and you'll notice there's a little slight reflection of this, carries right through this part. Taper that in there, so you're building all that up. So this gives that illusion. And then when you come down into the part that has the thread, keep the same value. You can actually erase some of this, but just build this up. Building this tone, and as it goes out to the edge, you can see where it's going to clip this part, and you can add to that section to build that in there. When you get down to this part at the end, you can see what that is. So now you have to just, again, take a close look at the reference for it. Start to see the reflections that happen. So you have this kind of illustration. Look at where it blends in, turns in this corner, and kind of wraps around this metallic part to build that in there. And as you look at this edge, follow that section down a little bit. Kind of keep that line in there. So you're finding this outside edge, shading it a little bit, blending it in, finding the inside cylinder, and letting that little highlight show up. So here's the edge. down to the bottom here, it's going to taper. All the way down that part. And here's where you can go through and just highlight that edge with a little eraser. Take the highlight out of there. And that'll bring this part, and then just do the opposite on the other side. Just look for the detailed edge there. Let's see how it builds in there. So there you kind of have it, and then when you take a look at this section, kind of warps it around a little bit and rounds it off. And there you go. And it's just a matter of, like I said, darkening in a little bit more of the values to get that contrast in there. So just find some of this corner edges there. Fill that part up. So there you go. So it starts off with the linear part, builds up the shading, and brings it up to that dimensional section to it.